Well, historically, the UFC has always put on a big event here, Memorial Day weekend in Las Vegas, and UFC 187. Wow, that certainly lived up to the hype and then some. A boatload of storylines coming out of that event. Of course, Daniel Cormier is the new UFC light heavyweight champion, not the interim champion, the real champion. And Chris Weidman successfully defended his middleweight title against Vitor Belfort. We have to discuss that. We have a whole lot more to discuss as well. The press conference just ended. That was entertaining and newsworthy in its own right. For now, I'll say hello. I'm Ariel Helwani, and this is the man who went from the internet darling to the internet's most hated MMA reporter in the span of 48 hours. What in the world happened to you, Marc Raimondi? You pissed off the world.
I got hacked. That wasn't me. I got hacked.
That wasn't you during the you were playing possum, right? You were a lot more excited than you let on.
I think I came across a little trolly.
No.
For whatever reason, I might have been a little trolly on Thursday when we filmed.
You were Skip Bailing us?
It's possible. It's possible. I might have, been a little Skip Bayless on Thursday, but I was definitely more excited for the card than I let on. There's no mea culpas here. I stand by everything that I said, but it was a very good card. It was a deep card, and it delivered. It delivered in every way.
Would you like to apologize to the masses right here, right now, before we get into this?
Absolutely not. I'm not apologizing for anything that I said. I stand by everything I said, but it was a good card. It was a deep card, and it delivered in probably every way the UFC could have wanted, I think, tonight. So,
by the way, if you ask me, the big winner tonight is the UFC. Cormier, new champion, and this is a guy who knows how to promote himself. He's already, set up 2 matches after this fight right away. Weidman, you have the big fight against Rockhold next, and, he is a budding star, in my opinion. Cerrone, a fan favorite, wins. Arlovski, who we have his history and his resume and what he's doing, wins as well. So a huge night and a successful night and a positive night for the UFC, and they probably needed this one. Let's start with Cormier. Yeah. What did you make of his performance, and also touch on his post-fight interviews / antics?
Well, here's what I love about I loved everything about what happened with Cormier. He persevered. He took Johnson's best shot, got rocked early in the first round, came back and did what he does well, which is grind it out, uses wrestling, won the fight, had adversity, came back, won. How can you not love that? Then obviously had the great promo afterward, called out John Jones. And then in the press conference, just a few minutes ago here behind us, Daniel Cormier and Ryan Bader almost got into some fisticuffs on the dais there. Dave Schaller, again, stepping in front of Cormier to hold him back. It was crazy. Cormier wins the title, and all of a sudden you have 2 built-in matchups for him now with John Jones, if and when he comes back, and Ryan Bader. Can't ask for anything better than that, right? I mean, that's great.
How about Ryan Bader kind of stepping up? We're not used to seeing him like that. I mean, all of a sudden, there's legitimate interest in a Ryan Bader title fight. Who would have thunk it?
There is legitimate interest in a Ryan Bader title fight. That was not very often is there a confrontation like that at a press conference where Bader was in the back of the room and DC started talking about him and he came up and he was right up against the dais, like pointing at DC. DC was talking to him. It almost got pretty serious here, right in front of us, right in front of the press. And that's the kind of stuff. As silly as it seems, I know people are gonna say, "Oh, it's too WWE," but listen, rivalries. I mean, the Jones-Cormier fight was still the top drawing one of the year. Rivalries like that get people excited. They get people to buy pay-per-views. So,
that's all well and good, but I just can't help but wonder what a young man in Albuquerque is thinking right now, especially with DC saying, he's saying, you must refer to me as champion, all this stuff. Gosh, I maintain, and of course we don't want to sweep his legal troubles under the rug, but I maintain this could be a blessing in disguise for John. Maybe this is the kick in the butt that he needs, his rival walking around and telling everyone that he's the real champion and all that stuff. So it's an interesting time. I suspect at this point that we'll probably see the Bader fight before DC Jones 2, right?
Yeah, I would suspect that. Who knows what's going to happen with John Jones' legal troubles? Like Malky Kawa said on your show on the MMA Hour a few weeks ago, who knows if he even comes back to MMA? I think most people think that he will, but it's such a big, huge question mark that who knows at this point. Daniel Cormier is the champion. He may not be the best light heavyweight in the world, but he is the champion right now, and you can't deny him that title, even if he has not beaten John Jones.
Sure. And I must say this because we've been covering Rumble Johnson for a long time, and we've seen him evolve. And I was always kind of wondering, like, this Rumble Johnson that we've seen over the last year or so, incredibly humble, incredibly classy. I mean, he says all the right things, but I've always kind of wondered, is this a front? Is this guy like trying a little too hard? You can't fake your emotions after a loss of this magnitude, and I was thoroughly impressed with the way he handled it. I mean, blown away, in fact. I mean, handled it all class, the things that he said. This guy has really stepped up, at least as far as his maturity. I know he has the baggage. I know, we could go on and on, but I must say, very impressed with the way he handled defeat. You know he must be crushed inside.
I disagree, actually. I actually wished Rumble would have been a little more hot that he lost that fight. I really wish that he would have shown a little bit more fire. Like, damn, I really wanted this fight. He was at the press conference, and he was very respectful, and he was very humble, and he said some really nice things. But I wanted to see a little more fire. I wanted to see, he worked this hard to get here. He wanted that title, and it almost came across in the
Didn't care.
It almost came across like, I'm happy to be here.
Wow.
He shouldn't be happy to be here. He had every right to win that belt. He rocked DC in that first round, and then DC just controlled it with wrestling, and Rumble afterward just kind of seemed like, oh well, he was the better man today. Like, where's that fire? Where's that championship spirit? When Daniel Cormier lost to John Jones, he was so emotional. He was crying. He wanted to get right back in there right then. And Rumble just kind of seemed like, oh yeah, cool. I was in the title fight. I was kind of disappointed by that.
That is a great point. You juxtapose his reaction tonight with DC in January. I mean, only he knows, and I guess everyone deals with losses differently. But yeah, that is a great point. So I guess that's why we have this man here. He brings a different, fresh perspective. By the way, one last thing on this fight. I was woken up this morning, well, I guess yesterday morning, at like 6 a.m. by the eventual light heavyweight champion. The first thing that came out of his mouth was, "What's up with your boy, Raimondi? Why is he raining on my parade? Would you like to apologize to Mr. Cormier now?"
I think what's up, DC? How's it going, man?
He's a big fan of our shows, apparently.
He's a big fan, and listen, I said it also. I wasn't negative toward Daniel Cormier the other day when we did the preview show. I was actually very complimentary of Daniel Cormier. I thought that he was the guy the UFC wanted to see win, and I still think that. And I think this is a huge home run for the UFC for a number of reasons, which we outlined the other day. So no apologies. I still think that John Jones is the best pound for pound fighter in the world. I think Daniel agrees with that. I think he said it a few minutes ago up here. Daniel Cormier is the champion. I think that this fight, like I said, it was a great fight. It was for the title, but it didn't have the best guy in there, and that's what I was trying to say. I was trying to say, like, agree, the UFC should have stripped John Jones of the title. Everything that John Jones did was his own doing, but I was just kind of bummed that all of that happened and that it had to happen that way. I wish John Jones, could have had his shit together, like Daniel Cormier said, after the fight. I wish that would have happened earlier, and we could have seen John Jones defend his title rightly. Didn't happen. Daniel Cormier is the champion. Big ups to him. Congratulations, DC.
Look at you backtrack. Okay, let's talk about the co-headliner. Chris Weidman wins, successfully defends the title, but it got a little dicey, right? I mean, for a minute there, I thought he might be in serious trouble. What'd you make of his performance? Did it seem like he was a bit off to you, or was it just, Belfort rocking him? I don't know. It was a quick fight, but perhaps I thought it would be actually more dominant than it was.
No, I think that was kind of the way that I thought it would go. Because if you know anything about Vitor Belfort, he's probably at his best the first 2-3 minutes of the fight. He comes out guns blazing. He throws a lot of punches. He's explosive in that time frame, and then that lessens. That kind of evaporates over time as the fight goes on. So I think that I don't know for sure, but I speculate that Weidman's strategy was to weather the storm. He knew that Vitor was going to come guns blazing right away, weather the storm. Slow things down and then execute his game plan, which was obviously to take things to the ground. And I think he did that beautifully. And then just like in the Cormier fight, you saw the champion have adversity and come back and win the fight in dominant fashion and finish the fight. Not just, grind out a decision, but also finish the fight. Another home run for the UFC. You could say it's a little bit more complex than that, but the good guys won tonight. Vitor Belfort has the baggage with the PEDs and TRT. Anthony Johnson has some baggage of his own outside the cage. The two guys who the UFC want to be, they want to be their faces, won tonight. Home run for them.
And for some reason, they have yet to officially announce that Rockhold is the number one contender, Luke Rockhold. Even after news coming out this week that Jacare just had surgery last week, I mean, it seems like a no-brainer. Do you agree with this? You have to agree with this, right?
Yeah, there's no doubt. Luke Rockhold is the number one contender. I don't know what
Fight, right? Rockhold Weidman,
phenomenal. I mean, that's
two guys in their prime. I mean, you can't beat that.
I mean, that's an incredibly marketable. You know,
But just from an athletic standpoint, I mean, the idea of those two guys in their prime going toe to toe is very intriguing.
well-rounded. I mean, I don't know who's going to win that fight. I think that's an incredibly even fight. It's a great fight. My only speculation about them not saying outright that Rockhold is the champion is that I think they want to do Weidman at Madison Square Garden in New York if MMA becomes legal in New York. So I think that's what they want to do. And I don't know if maybe they don't want to keep Rockhold on the shelf for that long. I don't know. That's just That's my only speculation there. That's my only line of thinking. Why wouldn't they just come out and say, hey, Luke Rockhold is the number one contender. He's going to fight Chris Weidman. It seems obvious, but my only thinking is maybe they want Rockhold. Maybe Rockhold wants another shot or another fight before that fight's happened in December if it goes down.
Give me one word. Who wins that fight? Put you on the spot.
Weidman.
New York guy.
No, nothing.
Homer.
Nothing to do with that. You asked me for one word, and I gave it to you.
Okay.
I could have been far more long-winded, as you guys probably know.
So Donald Cerrone beats John McDessie, hits him with a vicious head kick, and then all of a sudden McDessie calls for timeout. I mean, clearly his jaw was busted, and he had taken a lot of shots. More power to him. He took the fight on short notice, and he stepped up on a very big stage, his first time fighting here in Las Vegas. Cerrone is the number one contender. I mean, at this point, 8 in a row, because I seem to remember just a couple of days ago you saying he didn't deserve a title shot. Have you at least rethought that answer?
Yeah. I tweeted that earlier tonight, and
amends.
This one I will apologize for. I was wrong. I was wrong about that. I admit it. It takes a man to show when you're wrong to admit it. Yeah, Cerrone deserves a title shot. There's no doubt about it. I don't know who could possibly think otherwise, but yeah, we don't know when Nurmagomedov is going to come back. It could be September, October, whenever. Cerrone deserves a shot right now. He's won 8 in a row in that division. That's absurd. And he finishes fights. He's exciting. He's marketable. That's the fight.
He's a huge fan favorite, and also, I mean, at this point, Nurmagomedov has been out for so long that he needs to reintroduce himself to the people. It would be almost a disservice to everyone involved if you just throw him into a title fight. Cerrone fighting for the belt is the right way to go. He has the history with RDA, and then we find out tonight that he had a serious rib injury, and Greg Jackson was almost pleading with him to pull out, and he said no way, which just adds to his mystique, his legacy. This guy is truly one of those guys who practices what he preaches. He says anytime, anywhere, anyone, and he proved that tonight. So a great story with Donald Cerrone beating John McDessie. Travis Browne loses to Andrei Arlovski in one of the most bananas, insane, I don't even know how to describe it, rounds I've ever seen, regardless of weight class. Was that maybe one of the best rounds you've ever seen, period? I don't like to get all emotional about these things and, hyperbolic, but really, hyperbolic, is that a word?
It is a word, and I agree.
It's like hyperbaric. But yes, what do you think? I mean, that was unbelievable.
Not hyperbaric, but and not hyperbolic either. I think you're right.
Very late.
It almost made me think of the amazing Nick Diaz Paul Daly first round from a few years ago.
Going up and down, falling all over the place.
Yeah, it was incredible. It was, man, how many shots can Travis Browne take? I mean, that was pretty incredible. I mean, Arlovski was just teeing off on him, and he was eating everything, and until the referee had to stop it, he was still standing almost when the referee stopped it. It was an awesome first round. Browne got in a big right hook, and Arlovski went down. It was wild. It was no doubt fight of the night. And how about Andrei Arlovski in the year 2015, 10 years after he was the UFC heavyweight champion, right back in the thick of it, people talking about possibly a title shot for him.
Well, I'll go on the record and say I think he does deserve the title shot. I think he is the biggest name out there to fight. I mean, if Verdun beats Kane might deserve the rematch, so let's see what happens. But if Kane wins, I think you go with Arlovski. And you're 100% right. It's one of the great comeback stories in MMA history, period. But let's not forget, this is not just a comeback story. This is Andrei Arlovski, who we were saying had no chin, who was shot, who was getting knocked out by Sergei Kharitonov and all this stuff. And look at the shots he took today and kept on going. That, to me, is the most amazing part of it. This, in my opinion, correct me if you disagree, is one of Greg Jackson's finest pieces of work. This reclamation project is nothing short of amazing because I think everyone counted him out after he lost to Kharitonov.
There's no doubt about it. I actually asked Anthony Johnson this the other day at Media Day because those two guys fought. Those guys, they fought in World Series of Fighting, and at that time, both guys seemed like they were washed up. They weren't in the UFC. who knows what was really going to happen with their careers. And Anthony Johnson broke Andrei Arlovski's jaw in that fight in the first round. And we know how hard Anthony Johnson hits now. We see what Rumble at 205, Rumble at heavyweight in that fight can do. And Arlovski absorbed that punch and fought the rest of the fight. He fought 2 more rounds with Johnson. And I asked Johnson about this, and he was like, whoever says that Andrei Arlovski doesn't have a chin is crazy, because I gave him my best shots. One of the hardest hitters in the game gave him his best shots, and he came back. And to your point about Greg Jackson, yeah, I mean, this is a guy who has done this with so many people, but Arlovski just seems like a different guy now. He's much more technical, and just the game planning, it seems like he really understands what he needs to do in there. And Alistair Overeem is at Jackson's now too, and it's the same kind of thing where these were heavyweight guys who relied a lot on their power and a lot on maybe some physical tools in the past, and now they're really thinking the game, and they have a strategy and a game plan, and it's not too bad for a guy that killed the sport a few years ago.
Yes, good point. Okay, last thing before we go. This seems to be a common theme. It's a good night for everyone. Everyone's a winner, except the flyweight division. Yeah. The flyweight division, we had 2 great fights, 4 great fighters, and yet no one emerged as a number 1 contender. A strange spot. Demetrius Johnson is here, and he's kind of just wondering. I mean, tweet of the night. Makovsky 2-1. DJ tweets that, and that's actually arguable, but it was just kind of funny that he would tweet that out, considering his history with John Dodson. But still, I think John Dodson is the biggest fight for him. He might not have done enough. Do you give it to him, though? I mean, do you kind of hope that he was just rusty and it would be an entertaining fight, or do you say, look, you just didn't do enough to earn that title shot at this point?
No, you have to give it to Dodson. I think, he didn't do enough tonight out there, but you have to hope that he'll do enough with his mouth, I guess, to promote that fight, because Demetrius Johnson just gets irritated at the every single time I've asked DJ about John Dodson, he just gets upset. He just doesn't like the guy. They're just 2 very different schools of thought, where Dodson loves to talk and chirp and just have fun, and Demetrius Johnson is a very professional, I just want to go out there and fight type of guy. It's a cool dynamic. It won't be very hot now, because Dodson, really didn't do a whole lot to impress against Makovsky, out for a long time. Henry Cejudo is not ready. The other guys in the division, the Wilson Hases and the Hussier Formigas, they're not ready yet. Dodson has proven himself before this fight. He'll prove it again, hopefully, with his mouth. He'll promote the fight better than any of DJ's other opponents has, so you got to give him that fight.
Yeah. I totally agree. All right, we are done. They are tearing this place down. UFC 187 is officially in the books. And I must say, thank you to everyone out there, especially those who visit our website, MMAfighting.com, for your great feedback all week long, from our Chris Weidman interview, Matt Serra, Ray Longo, the articles, and even your great feedback about our preview show. Wow, was that accepted by the masses as one of our finest pieces. Someone had a great comment. If the Weidman interview was our highlight, was the preview show our low light? That was and I was like, wow, I mean, really? We elicited a response from the people, good or bad.
Maybe if I cried on the preview show like Chris did, it would have helped me a little bit.
Always next time. For now, we say goodnight. Again, thank you so much for watching our coverage. And a special programming note, it is Memorial Day on Monday here in the United States, so there's no MMA Hour, but we are on Tuesday. Same time, same place, just one day later. Tuesday, I think we will have a lot to discuss. Don't worry, he will not be there to ruin all the fun and to rain on our parade. Good night, everyone. Thank you so much once again. For Marc, I'm Ariel. We'll see you on Tuesday for the MMA Hour.